Lagos State Nigeria's economic capital and Ogun State Nigeria's emerging industrial hub are two critical subnationals in the federation. Their ability to cooperate and achieve a formidable partnership has become imperative. The Nigerian-South African Chamber of Commerce, understanding the importance of the Lagos-Ogun network, hosted Governors Babajide Sanwoolu and Prince Dr. Dapo Abiodun, MFR, at the October edition of his breakfast meeting. It was an opportunity for both governors to give their perspective on the proposed Joint State Development Commission. The event, sponsored by Phillips Consulting, a leading professional services firm, brought together business leaders, industrialists, thought leaders, scholars, and experts. Governor Sanwoolu set the context for the Joint Commission and the historical issues that affected its initial takeoff in 2005, while his Ogun State counterpart identified the opportunities that could be leveraged on for the development of both states and the national economy.
Lagos today sits on a size that is less than 0.4% of the landmass of the country. Of that 0.4%, one-third of that is also water, so it's actually not very accessible. So in a very little tiny dot called Lagos, in terms of landmass, less than, in real terms, about 0.3% of the total land size of the country, sits about over 10% of the population. So in that small space, it certainly needs, to push. It really doesn't have a lot, given the fact that the Atlantic Ocean is on the western part of it, so it can only push back, and incidentally, it's only Ogun State that is around, So whilst we're pushing, we're hoping that my brother can also take, all of the push. But in terms of concept, the first attempt at making Lagos-Ogun sort of like have a mega city was way back in 2005 or thereabout. I was privileged to be in the government at that time, It was initially conceived by the federal government, so it was the federal government that sort of like married that arrangement, and typically they brought in their own institution. They brought in the chairman and all of it, and even the structure at that time was a bit faulty, but because it was the federal government, we all went in, and at the end of the day, right, for some reasons, political, economic, and all of it, we really now couldn't implement some of the very good initiatives and suggestions that came out, from that collaboration, which was called Lagos-Ogun Mega City Project at that time. And the president at that time, too, had other political agenda, so it really didn't work. So the opportunity Prince and I have now is, first, we're from the same political party, so we don't have excuse. And pretty much we've known each other well before God and all of you elected us in. So we can truly, really do a lot of things very quickly and very fast. So we agreed amongst ourselves we should set up, what we call a Lagos-Ogun commission, which will certainly speak to all of the issues that we believe are common to both of us, all around border disputes, land management, traffic management, fiscal planning, movement, urban migration, tax management, revenue sharing, and other legal issues that might come up. So we've said to ourselves that needs to begin to happen, and we're putting our teeth there. We're putting even our deputy governors to sort of like sit in and chair that. The framework for it, we're just finalizing and to. But for us as Lagos, right, in our economic agenda, we've said we wanted to push a project called Project Teams. We have our own peculiar issues, which is traffic management and transportation, which is health and environment, which is making Lagos a mega city economy, which is education and technology, which is entertainment and tourism, and finally, security and good governance. So in all of that space, we're hoping that we can be a place of choice, not only to the 22 million or so Lagosians, right, but we can continue to remain as an economic destination for not only Nigeria, but in the whole of West Africa. And how do we need to do that? We need to understand that people coming to Lagos, and pretty much they don't even have an idea of where, they're going to pass the night or something. And so we need to have data that we're beginning to generate to some sort. A lot of people compare us and say that, but in Rwanda this happens, but in Ethiopia this happens. And so I said, yes, in Rwanda and Ethiopia, but this is Lagos. It's a sub-national, it's not a country. We don't have a border post. We don't issue visas on arrival, right? We cannot control our customs. These are all issues that has, the federal government of Nigeria to deal with. So we have issues as a sub-national, right? But we carry some sort, challenges that a real national needs to deal with. So these are some of the things that we know that we need to have strategies in place to be able to deal with. And Ogun, in my view, can help us. We can truly, really look at who has advantage over where, right? And we can sort of like agree amongst ourselves that in areas where we have comparative advantage, there's no need to split heads. Let's push. In areas where you can do a few things for us, let's push. And we've started, in agriculture, which we can speak more into. We're coming into the space to take land for our agri mill coming up. In our water, we have the biggest water plant, water works in the country. We're building another 70 million gallons, and incidentally, is actually in Ogun State. So we have a right of way of about 10 kilometers to take from where the water plant is to where the water intake is. We need to speak to Ogun State. They need to give us the right of way. We need to collaborate so that even issues around displacement, they need to speak to the indigenous and be able to manage all of those conversations for us. Security is critical, and it's something that it must be seen to be free flow of people in and out. And we should be able to share information, share data. Traffic management, I keep asking them that why would an accident happen at Ojojuba there? And you need to call the equivalent of LASMA from Ogun State to come and deal with it, right? These are some of the things we can agree on ourselves, and if it is closer for LASMA to deal with it at Ojojubaja, let them deal with it and not split heads and fight ourselves and believe that some of the things that we've started talking about. Thank you.
Ogun State is called the Gateway State for a reason, and that's simply because we're geographically advantageously located to be the closest state to Lagos, and consequently, we are the gateway to the fifth largest economy on the continent. And bearing in mind, we captioned our vision to be that which is to provide a focused and qualitative governance, whilst creating the enabling environment for a public-private sector partnership. We believe that is very, very fundamental to the economic growth of the state, and when there's economic growth in the state, there will be individual prosperity. So this has sort of spoken to what we consider our comparative advantage. We are closest to Lagos. We are borders with 3 other states. We are borders with a neighboring country. We are a state with about 16,000 square kilometers, with a population of probably about 5 million people. Comparatively to Lagos, it's much smaller in size and has by far a larger population. So what are we saying here? Lagos is expanding into Ogun from all sides, and Ogun must be prepared to accommodate that overflow from Lagos, and we must be able to do that efficiently. And how have we intended to do that? That also speaks to our vision, which is to ensure that we create that enabling environment for a public-private sector partnership. Today, you find that we are the largest industrial hub in the country because of the push factor, this same push factor from Lagos. We intend to turn that into a pull factor. And we believe that to do that effectively, we should be able to provide security, adequate security. First of all, people must be able to live, work, and play in Ogun, or live in Ogun and work in Lagos without having to worry about the issue of security. Secondly, we believe that there must be ease of transportation between both our states. We must be able to travel between Lagos and Ogun and, of course, the other states in the southwest with relative ease. So the issue of road infrastructure is very important. And if we are dealing with the overflow from Lagos, we want to say we are actually adequately preparing for that. We must ensure that we have good schools, we have good hospitals. We must also be able to ensure that we can also create the necessary employment that comes with that. So people can come with relative ease. They have good healthcare, they have good educational institutions, they have employment. Towards that, we have begun a massive campaign in employing our people. We created a job portal, which to date has about 120,000 people on that job portal. We've encouraged our private sector to ensure they post their job availabilities on that portal.
Dr. Oba Otudeko, CFR, Chairman Honeywell Group, Governor Dapo Abiodun, and Mr. Felicia Phillips speaks further on the events and deepening collaboration between the two states.
Governors of Lagos and Ogun have come to share ideas with the private sector. As I said at the interaction, both of them are actually representatives of the private sector in the public sector because they are successful practitioners in their respective undertakings. So you must have seen that going from the private sector to function in the public sector should be an advantage. So I see a future for you boys and girls.
What we've decided to do is to collaborate with each other to ensure that we are both prepared for the challenges that the population explosion that's happening in Lagos and Ogun presents. Like they say, most people tend to migrate towards the cities. So there's a lot of migration towards Lagos, being the fifth largest economy on the continent. And that population migration and explosion is overflowing into Ogun. So we both decided to come together to see how do we address those issues, particularly among the border areas. And those issues the border on security, the border on education, the border on healthcare, the border on infrastructure, the border on physical planning, the border on how do you ensure that you plan for climate change. As you can see, there's flooding and all that. So those are the kind of things. And then, of course, taxation as well. We want to ensure that, having done all that, we're able to now confidently administer the relevant taxes so that we can continue to provide this service.
They know exactly what they need to do. Lagos does need help. It's bursting at the seams. It's been declared a potential mega city, if not one already, and it will continue to happen. The huge level of urban migration is quite high, and it's not a problem that is going to go away soon. So unless Ogun State, which is next door, has got the landmass and the facility to absorb the expansion of Lagos, unless they come together and begin to work together consciously, then Lagos would run into serious problems. So it's almost like saying that Ogun State is coming to the rescue, but at the same time is using it as an opportunity to expand its own economy, and it's a mutually beneficial arrangement.
Lagos and Ogun are vital states in Nigeria, and the proposed establishment of a joint development commission is a welcome development for the Southwest region and the Nigerian economy. It is expected that the commission will be backed by legislation to ensure it outlives the administration of the current governors.